They wear a flawless mask of success and charm, but behind it, there's a profound inner emptiness and a shadow self they've locked away. What if a map to understanding the narcissist's desperate need for control was drawn up nearly a century ago? The work of Carl Jung offers a powerful lens to see the dark psychology of the narcissist. And in this video, we'll use it to shine a light on the inner world they desperately hide. We live in an age that seems to cultivate narcissism. The perfectly curated lives on social media and the constant chase for status often reward the traits that define the narcissist. But we're not talking about simple vanity here. We're dealing with a deep psychological issue that leaves a trail of emotional ruin. The word narcissist is used casually, but its true meaning is found in the tragic Greek myth of Narcissus. Narcissus was a youth of such breathtaking beauty that all who saw him fell in love, but he treated his admirers with cold contempt. The goddess of retribution, Nemesis, led him to a pool of water where he saw his own reflection and was completely mesmerized. He fell hopelessly in love with the image, unable to leave. He tried to embrace the reflection, but it was just a silent illusion. Consumed by a love that could never be returned, he wasted away and died. This myth is a psychological map. Narcissus didn't fall in love with himself. He fell in love with a reflection. He fell for a surface, a two-dimensional illusion without a soul. That is the fundamental tragedy of the narcissist. They aren't in a state of true self-love. They are in a state of profound self-obsession with a constructed image they've mistaken for their real self. This is where the common understanding of narcissism falls short. We see the narcissist as someone with a massive ego, but the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung offered a much deeper, more chilling perspective. Jung saw the narcissist's grandiosity not as a sign of strength, but as a desperate defense against a terrifying inner emptiness. Their entire personality is a fortress built to protect them from a single unbearable truth: the feeling that behind the mask, there is nothing there at all. To understand them, we must explore Jung's concepts, the persona, the shadow, and the archetypal forces that fuel their destructive patterns. This isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's a vital act of self-protection. Because until you understand the deep psychology driving them, you are vulnerable to their reality-twisting games. To understand the narcissist's psychological fortress, we must start with its outer wall, the face they show the world. Jung called this the persona. The word comes from the Latin for the masks worn by actors in ancient theater. For Jung, the persona is the necessary social mask we all wear to function in society. A healthy person knows the persona is just a mask. They can put it on at work and then take it off at home. Their sense of self is anchored in something much deeper than the performance of the day. For the narcissist, however, there's no difference between the persona and the self. The mask is their identity. They have completely fused with the role they're playing: the brilliant CEO, the selfless saint, the perfect spouse. This persona is a rigid shell, built to get admiration, envy, and validation from others. This external validation, or narcissistic supply, isn't just a preference. It's their psychological oxygen. Without it, they feel like they're suffocating. Think of the CEO, whose persona is one of absolute strength. They can't handle a single employee questioning their ideas, because that criticism doesn't just challenge a strategy, it cracks the mask. It threatens to expose the idea that they aren't the all-powerful genius their persona pretends they are. Or, consider the partner whose social media is a gallery of romantic perfection. Behind closed doors, they're incapable of real emotional intimacy, because their partner's messy human feelings, their sadness or fear, are a threat to the perfect story. Their partner's real pain is an ugly crack in the flawless fantasy. This total identification with the persona leads to a devastating consequence: a profound inner emptiness. Because their entire sense of self is outsourced to what others think, there's no stable core inside. They're a hollow drum that only makes a sound when beaten by outside applause. This is why they're so fragile. A narcissistic injury isn't just a hurt feeling, it's a structural collapse. It's a momentary, horrifying peek into the void the persona was built to hide. Their reaction, whether rage or manipulation, is a frantic scramble to patch the crack and restore the mask. When you're dealing with a narcissist, you're not dealing with a whole person. You're dealing with a rigidly defended persona whose only goal is to preserve itself at any cost. If the persona is the shiny facade, the shadow is the dark basement it's built on. The shadow is Jung's term for that unconscious part of our personality where we hide everything we reject about ourselves. Things like selfishness, envy, greed, vulnerability, and neediness. We all have a shadow. The path to psychological wholeness or individuation isn't about destroying the shadow. No, it's about becoming aware of it and integrating its lessons. As Jung himself wrote, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. The narcissist, however, they wage a lifelong war against their shadow, constantly pretending it just doesn't exist. The grander their persona, the bigger, in fact, the shadow they're repressing. All those feelings of inadequacy, of insecurity, and of worthlessness. They're all stuffed away, deep into this darkness. And to admit to any of these feelings, well, that would just shatter the persona. And for them, that feels like death. This rejected energy doesn't just vanish. The narcissist gets rid of it through their most insidious defense, projection. Projection is when you unconsciously take your own unacceptable feelings and pin them on someone else. They turn the world into a mirror of their own rejected self. Have you ever been accused of the very thing your accuser is doing? That is narcissistic projection. A narcissistic husband who's secretly insecure about his loyalty might relentlessly accuse his faithful wife of being untrustworthy. He can't own his feelings, so he projects them onto her, cleansing his own shame by making her the problem. A narcissistic boss who makes a huge mistake won't accept responsibility. Instead, they'll find an employee to blame, projecting their own incompetence onto that person and making them the scapegoat. The narcissist walks away with their persona intact, leaving the other person feeling confused and unfairly attacked. This is what makes being with a narcissist so disorienting. They're like dark alchemists, turning their inner poison into your supposed flaws. They'll accuse you of being, quote, too sensitive when you react to their cruelty, or selfish when you set a boundary. They're offloading their shadow onto you, and if you don't realize what's happening, you start to believe them. The shadow also fuels their most terrifying emotions, envy and rage. They're pathologically envious of anyone who has what they lack, authenticity, warmth, or genuine confidence. They will try to devalue and destroy what they can't have. And when the persona is threatened, the shadow erupts with volcanic force in what's known as narcissistic rage. This isn't normal anger. It's a terrifying, out-of-proportion explosion designed to do one thing: destroy the threat and put the persona back in charge. Beneath their polished mask lies a terrified, raging child, desperately trying to keep anyone from seeing the monsters in their own basement. Where does this deep split in the psyche come from? Jungian psychology points to childhood, where narcissism is often born from a deep psychic wound, an early trauma that really throws the development of a real self off course. In a healthy childhood, a child's feelings are seen, validated, and mirrored by parents. This mirroring, it's essential. It tells the child, you are accepted for who you are, and this builds a solid inner core. The future narcissist, though, often experiences a catastrophic failure of this process. They're treated like an object, meant to serve the parent's needs. The child learns a brutal lesson. Their real feelings are a problem. Love isn't given freely, it's earned through performance. Praised only for winning trophies or being compliant, the child makes a tragic, unconscious choice. They abandon their true self and build a false self, a persona that can win the approval they need to survive. It's a survival strategy, really, that becomes a permanent psychological prison. Jung also gave us a way to see these deep, unconscious patterns through his theory of archetypes. Archetypes are universal, ancient patterns in our shared, collective unconscious. Narcissists often become unconsciously possessed by the shadow side of these powerful archetypes, channeling their destructive energies. For example, a narcissist might embody the shadow of the king archetype, the tyrant. The tyrant demands absolute control and punishes any sign of independence, turning their home or office into a kingdom where their word is law. Another might be possessed by the shadow of the great mother archetype, the devouring mother. She smothers her child's identity, sabotaging their attempts at independence with guilt and manipulation to keep them forever dependent. We might also see the shadow of the magician archetype, the manipulative trickster. The trickster is a charlatan who uses charm and clever words to deceive and control others, twisting reality to serve their ego. When you're dealing with a narcissist, you're often up against the immense impersonal power of a shadow archetype. This is why their behavior can feel so mythic in its destructiveness. Understanding this helps to depersonalize the abuse. You've simply been cast in a role in their archetypal drama. Recognizing the pattern is the first step toward refusing to play the part. We're getting deep into the psychological blueprint of narcissism. And if this is giving you some clarity, please take a second to support the channel by liking this video and subscribing. It really helps us keep making in-depth content like this. And if you've ever run into one of these archetypal patterns yourself, drop your experience in the comments. You know, your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. One of the most confusing things about being with a narcissist is the emotional roller coaster. One day, you're perfect. The next, you're worthless. This is a key defense mechanism: splitting. Splitting is a primitive defense that chops the world into stark, black and white categories. Things and people are either all good or all bad. As we mature, we learn to hold two opposite ideas at once. We can love our partner while being annoyed by a habit. The narcissist, due to their arrested development, remains stuck in this primitive, split state. Their inner world is a war between an idealized version of themselves, the persona, and a devalued, hated version, the shadow. They project this internal split onto the world, creating the infamous idealization, devaluation, discard cycle. So phase 1, idealization. When a narcissist meets someone new, they don't see the real person. They project the idealized, all-good part of their own psyche onto that person. You become a blank screen for their fantasy of the perfect savior. They shower you with praise, mirroring back a perfect version of you. In reality, they're falling in love with their own reflection in you. You've been cast as the all-good object. Phase 2, devaluation. This can't last. Sooner or later, you'll do something human, disagree, set a boundary, or have a bad day. The split flips. The crack in your perfection is intolerable. They can't see you as all good anymore, so you must become all bad. They start projecting their hated shadow onto you. You're no longer the savior. You're the selfish, flawed problem. The very things they once admired are now twisted into weapons. Your confidence becomes arrogance. Your compassion becomes weakness. They criticize and belittle you to project their own inner worthlessness. Alright, so phase 3, discard. Once you've been fully devalued and are no longer a source of positive supply, you are discarded. The discard can be shockingly sudden and incredibly cruel. They might just disappear, or even stage a final fight where you're the villain. This lets them walk away feeling like the righteous victim, their persona completely intact. They'll then quickly move on to a new source of supply, starting the cycle all over again. This all-or-nothing thinking makes a real connection with a narcissist impossible. You know? You're either a saint or a sinner, an angel or a demon, depending on which half of their split psyche they're projecting onto you. Understanding the narcissist's dark psychology is the foundation of your freedom. Knowledge is armor. Here's a Jungian strategy for protecting your psyche. First, learn to spot the mask. Your primary defense really is to see the persona for what it is. The narcissist is a master of charm, but you've got to look past the performance. Notice the gap between what they say and what they do. Their self-presentation is a rigid, well-rehearsed script. When you learn to see the persona, you stop being its victim. Next, refuse the projection. This is the most critical step by far. They'll try to dump their shadow, their shame, incompetence, and cruelty right onto you. You have to consciously refuse to absorb it. When a narcissist accuses you of something false, well, just see it as what it is, a confession. They're giving you a live report from their own shadow. Instead of defending yourself, simply think to yourself, they're describing themselves right now. This mental flip is your shield. Third, name the archetype. Step back and see the impersonal archetypal pattern. Are you dealing with the tyrant, the devouring mother, or the trickster? When you name the archetype, you take away its personal power. You realize you've just been cast in, like an ancient drama. This helps you detach, you see. You can't fix an archetype. You can only refuse to play the role it assigned you. Next, build your psychic walls. Boundaries with a narcissist are, well, non-negotiable psychic walls. They're chronic boundary violators. Setting and enforcing firm boundaries is, simply put, an act of psychic survival. This means saying no and really sticking to it. And ending conversations that become abusive. Every time you hold firm, you reinforce your own sense of self. And finally, focus on your own healing. This is the ultimate Jungian strategy, individuation. The narcissist's power over you, you see, is directly related to your own unexamined wounds. The more you work to know and accept your own shadow, your vulnerabilities, your anger, your needs, the less a narcissist can use them against you. When their projections have nowhere to stick and their approval becomes worthless, you are free. The greatest revenge, truly, is to heal yourself so completely that they can no longer find a foothold in your psyche. We've journeyed through the mind of the narcissist with Carl Jung as our guide. We've seen their grand fortress is built on hollow ground. We've unmasked the persona, gone into the dark of the shadow, and seen how it's violently projected onto others. We've understood this split psyche is born from deep childhood wounds and fueled by shadow archetypes. The ultimate warning from a Jungian perspective is this. The narcissist is trapped in a loop of their own defenses, which makes the journey of becoming whole nearly impossible for them to begin. Their tragedy is profound, but it doesn't have to become yours. Your job is not to fix them. It's a journey only they can choose. Your job is to see them clearly, understand the mechanics of their disorder, and use that knowledge to protect your own soul. By seeing the persona, refusing projection, naming the archetype, enforcing boundaries, and committing to your own healing, you turn the encounter into a catalyst for your own growth. You learn to be the source of your own validation and the master of your own inner world. Let's end with a powerful quote from Jung. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The narcissist is a prisoner of their unconscious. By choosing to make your own unconscious conscious, you break free from fate and begin to build your own destiny. Thank you for taking this deep dive. If this video resonated with you, please subscribe and turn on notifications for more content that explores the depths of the human psyche. Share this video with anyone you think needs to hear this. And, in the comments, let us know which of these Jungian concepts gave you the biggest aha moment. Your journey to awareness is a light for others.